Hi everyone, welcome to our second webinar with Cheer Sports Sharks. I'm excited to introduce Maria this morning. She's the marketing manager at the Sharks, as well as the owner of our newest partner, Full Out Cheer Gym Branding. A lot of you know her already, so you know she's going to bring a ton of energy and experience in combining her love for cheer and her passion for design and marketing. I couldn't ask for anyone better to help guide you in marketing your cheer program. I'll start by introducing myself. So my name's Ashley and I'm the marketing director here at Amelia. I've been working with cheer clubs across North America and I've been lucky enough to work with the Sharks over the past year as our brand ambassadors. This webinar is brought to you by Amelia. I know some of our clients are here, so hi to all of you. For those of you who don't know too much about us, Amelia helps cheer clubs manage everything from online registration to reporting to their spirit wear in both competitive and recreation programs. A few things to go over. This webinar will be recorded and we will send you a link to watch it. You can expect that by early next week. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. You can put those in the chat box and then Maria or I will answer them at the end. And lastly, if you are interested in learning more about Amelia, along with your recording, we'll send over a link for you to try out Amelia for free for 30 days. In that, you'll have access to all our features so you can really see if Amelia is a good fit for your program. So without further ado, I'll introduce Maria so we can get started.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining in. My name is Maria, and I'm the owner of a graphic design company called Full Out, which is specifically marketed within the cheerleading industry. I also work at Cheer Sports Sharks as a head coach and now their marketing manager. I'm hoping this webinar is helpful for big and small gyms, giving some insight on how to improve marketing within our sport and building stronger brand identity within your own gym. For those that don't know me very well, I've been in the cheerleading industry since 2001 as an athlete and a coach. I fell into the sport by pure accident. I attended a high school tryout with a friend as moral support, and in the end, I ended up making the team and she did not, but pretty funny start to something that has become my entire world. Since then, I've cheered on high school teams, all-star, college, and I retired on the Grey Reef all-girl level 6 team at Sharks in 2012. I studied graphic design at Fanshawe College in London, Ontario for 3 years and was lucky enough after graduating to combine my passion for marketing and graphic design with my favorite sport. What started as a side project actually turned into my full-time career, and today I can say I've worked with over 170 cheerleading gyms across Canada, Australia, United Kingdom, and the States. Just over a year ago, Ali and Lan approached me with a new job opportunity at Cheer Sports Sharks and asked if I would be interested in managing the social media. My initial and obvious response was yes, and this was something I had always dreamed of. From there, my responsibilities have grown further into a bigger marketing role. It's been my favorite canvas to take over. Being in the cheer gym as much as I am allows me to think outside the box for new ideas on a regular basis. Our social audience is at a large scale, close to 50,000 followers on Instagram. So I find it important to keep our material fresh and innovative all the time, which is my favorite part. I love what I do and I'm very thankful for how my career has turned out. I'm so excited to share some important tips that are of value within our industry. Today, I'm going to be sharing my top 10 marketing tips and strategies I've implemented with Cheer Sports Sharks, and I'm hoping everyone that has tuned in today can apply at least one new strategy that is discussed in this webinar. Okay, tip number 1, brand identity. Before any marketing can begin, it is vital to have a strong logo. Why? It's the face of your brand. In order to have a strong brand identity, you need a logo that speaks for itself. Some of my favorite logos that I reference are Shopify, Starbucks, President's Choice, Nike, Cheer Athletics, Lulu, and Cheer Sports Sharks. I will say that I cannot take credit for Sharks logo, but I have always thought, even prior to even coaching at Sharks, that they have one of the strongest logos within the cheerleading industry. When I create a logo, I ask my clients to find different logos that they like. Doesn't have to be cheer related, just logos that speak to them. I find this helps the process because the client ends up seeing a bigger picture on how brands stand out and the importance of a good logo. We in the cheer world tend to go above and beyond when it comes to glitz and glam, but in reality, that's not how we want to introduce our sport. As cheerleading grows, we need to understand that glitter and stars does not speak to what cheerleading offers. Professionalism and athletic logos is where our cheer is headed. Use this little checklist that I've made to see if your logo passes the test. Number 1, is your logo simple or busy? Here are some reasons and examples of simple. If your logo does not work in black and white, then it's probably too busy. You really only need to have 2 colors at the most. So make sure that as you get into that, you're looking that you have 2 brand colors and black and white. So the 2 of them can work kind of the same. And that kind of goes as my second point. Number 3, will your logo last longer than 5 years? If the answer is no, it's time for a makeover. Now, what I mean by that, there needs to be longevity in your brand. So 5 years is really not a long time. And if your logo kind of stands still in those 5 years, you're going to be bored with it, and then your brand has to change again. So really putting in a plan of a strong logo is your first foot forward. Okay, number 2, plan it out. Once your logo is set, it's time to strategize a plan. How do you plan on marketing your cheerleading program? There are endless ways to spread the word about what your business offers, but how you do it takes strategy. Understanding where you reach the most clientele truly depends on the area that you're in. I suggest a little research on your location first. How you market in a small town versus how you market in a city can change your tactics and your budget. Remember, as an athletic program for kids, you are marketing to 2 types of clients, parents first and kids second. With that being said, my keys to a strong marketing plan are as follows. Number 1, make a budget for the year. As the saying goes, you have to spend money to make money, but that doesn't mean break the bank. Be realistic on what you can afford so you can evenly place your money in more than one area of marketing. Be realistic on what you can afford for your first season as well. You don't have to go above and beyond. You could make something small and know that you can grow from that. It's much easier to start in a little process and grow it versus trying to go backwards. Number 2, educate yourself on where you can advertise. Now, there are many places you can put advertisements, but depending on your location, you may have more or less. So these are my top favorite places to place ads. Newspapers, magazines, local flyers to go to schools to target kids of all ages, shopping malls or billboards within shopping malls, road signs, radio commercials and or interviews, TV commercials, Google Ads, Google AdWords, the internet, social media, local events, local community boards, cross promotions with other programs or businesses within your area, and of course, word of mouth, which is free. Number 3, talk to your current families and find out how they found out about your program. Parents are a great resource for feedback on your gym, and some strategies can be inviting parents for a good table talk or emailing out a survey to your current families and clients about how they found out about your program, where they would rather hear about your program, and just know that the parents in your gym are going to be your first resource and your easiest resource because they're right there. You already have them drawn into your gym. They're invested into your program. So feed off of them a little bit to know what they do and do not like, because their input is important. Tip number 3, consistent material. Consistent marketing is key. After being in the driver's seat of Sharks social media for the last year, I wanted to make sure each post included at least one or of all the following items: your program name, your logo, contact information, website, and brand colors. Social media allows for your business to have a visual platform, including one or all of the above items on social posts is a smart way to create consistency in your brand. The more ways you can include your brand into visual components, the more memorable all of these items have become. So for example, when I'm creating a post, and this could be for a gym that's hired me as a business or with Sharks, I really like to implement at least one thing that someone will remember that is part of the brand. So for Sharks, I would make sure that teal is included no matter what, as that is our strong brand color and something that we as a program have implemented everywhere that we are, whether it's uniform, whether it's gym, whether it's apparel, you name it, it's there. And again, our logo, because it's so strong, it's easy to put in as a simple one-off onto a post. So, having all of those components as well easily brands your social media, and then it becomes yours. So when it's on your social feed and people are sharing that, you know that that logo or that contact information is on there already, and you don't have to worry about resharing it. What is remembered from your social content is important. So tip number 4, which is kind of a good stream off of what we had just talked about, making your social media game strong. Social media is huge in our cheerleading industry. And if your program is not using the following apps below, sign up for them after this webinar. Number one, Facebook. Facebook is not so much used by our athletes anymore, especially as they are younger. But Facebook is such a good tool to utilize with an older audience. A lot of parents are on Facebook and notice ads. And if they're in groups or you have a strong Facebook page, they're more likely to look on those components on your Facebook versus on a website. But at least on Facebook, you can also draw them to the website because you can't include everything on a Facebook platform, but this is where you're going to target parents the most. Number two is Twitter. Same thing. I feel like there's probably a 60-40 split, 60 being a parent, 40 being the kids. I do find it relatively busy with both. So I find, again, just including Twitter onto your platform of how you advertise. The only difference with Twitter is that you're limited on what you can put on there, which can be a good thing because I think simple phrases or simple advertisements of what you put online is always a good thing. Instagram is probably like 80% athletes, 20% parents, but again, an awesome platform to put any content. Now, Instagram has extended their video length to a minute long, which can be a really good way to advertise as well. But pictures, advertisements, you name it, Instagram is like your best platform to reach your athletes. But then the other side of that is that you can tie all of those top three together. So anything that I've posted on Instagram, I automatically put on Facebook and I automatically put on Twitter so that the same message is going out to everybody, which again leads back to us saying consistency. So when everything's kind of tapped out onto the same platforms, my one kid might see it on Instagram and the other parent might see it on Facebook, and the two of them are talking about the same thing. Number four is Snapchat. This is for athletes mainly, and there's kind of a different way about Snapchat. So it is one way that kids like to integrate and connect, and you know, there's 10-second videos, and it's a very different way of social media. But the one way that programs and gyms can utilize this is obviously having a gym account where your coaches can be on it and using Snapchat, you know, kind of within your program and having your different coaches manage it and keeping it fun and just taking videos and whatnot at competitions and gyms and practice and all that good stuff. But the other side of Snapchat is that as a business, you can make or purchase a custom geo filter. So for example, if you're at a really fun competition, your gym can purchase a geo filter, which can have your brand on it, your, you know, a quote, motivational quote for competition, any of those things, but the kids are going to use it. The kids look at it as fun, and it's kind of a sneaky way almost of connecting with them, because in their mind, they see that as fun and they're using it. And more likely, a lot of kids that aren't in your program are using it as well because it's just a fun platform of social media. But you're also sending your brand out there, especially at, you know, events that have to do with your industry. So I do think Snapchat gets a little bit underplayed with how we can use it as a business, but I do find it very helpful. And the other side with Snapchat, when you use geo filters, you then after the geo filter is completed, you get to look at all the analytics. So you know how many people have viewed it, you know how many people have used it, the area that you used it in, and the best part is that it's fairly inexpensive. So to use it in the radius that you're in for a day is maybe, you know, $15 at the most. So something that's super affordable and fun for your kids. I do think that more gyms should be offering that. And then my last one is YouTube. I do find that YouTube can be integrated a little bit on Instagram. It depends on the size of the video, but when you're making different promotional videos or you have athlete specific videos or just program videos and you want them on YouTube, start promoting your YouTube channel so that you do have all your kids going to it. You know, it's just another way of our athletes being able to connect to what we're doing, but it's a more fun visual aspect than just a photo or just a post or just an advertisement. So in some ways, you know, as I mentioned earlier, to do TV commercials, if that's not in your budget, making a YouTube video is essentially free. If you know you want to use iMovie or whichever easy apps you want for video, this is another way that you can put your brand out there and have some of the coaches help. We all have, you know, smartphones and different camera devices. So going about that as a different tool can be helpful and just a new and different way to advertise. So these are the top used social platforms that I've kind of researched, and our athletes or families are all using on a regular basis. Finding ways to connect with everyone on social media is what it's all about, but how you use it is what makes it successful or a failure. My tip, create a social media plan. This can be done on a weekly or monthly cycle, whatever is easiest to manage. Depending on your following, decide how many posts per day you would like to place online. Remember, it's important not to oversell on social media. If you're going to engage with your followers, there has to be a variety of material so that the majority of your following is interested. If you aren't savvy or creative on the computer, there are a handful of apps you can download that are easy to use that will create social media friendly posts. My top 3 favorite to download are, number 1 is Vintage Design. This one is not free, but it is only $2.99. Comes with a handful of different backgrounds, lots of different fonts to choose from. You can also import photos and pretty much do what you wish with it. You can load your logo in it, all of those things that I had just talked about on creating stronger promotional posts. And then it saves into a size that can go on Instagram. So super handy to have. Adobe Spark is essentially kind of the same thing, but different backgrounds with it, and also has a bit of a video feature to it. So if you like some of the animated video posts that come up where you have a slide come in and you have text coming in from another side and then a photo, again, another creative way to engage your kids and your parents to read what you're posting. And then the third one is Canva. And along the same lines with different simple backgrounds where you can add text and kind of make them your own. My only advice when using any of these tools is to make sure that it's reader friendly. So there's many times as I've looked at different gyms, Instagram and social media, that there are some big no-nos when actually creating designs. My biggest pet peeve is watching a gym post an important post about camp next week or whatever they're advertising, and have a white font on a white background. They most of the time don't mean to do this, and maybe it's, done quickly and you don't really observe it the best way we could. But if a parent is reading that and they can't read the last word or the price is hidden, you're going to miss the whole point of advertising. So I do find it crucial that you play it smart and take it to the basics. Make a dark background with a light font, a light background with a dark font. Don't overdo it, because at the end of the day, this is about parents reading, and it has to be simplified so that they get what you're selling or they get what you're promoting, or just be able to read your posts. I do find that happens way too many times, and which is another reason that I really try my best to implement strong social media for our families and make sure that the point is put across, they know what they're reading, and it's easy to capture within the first 5 seconds of reading it. So please keep those things in mind. Too much text is also a huge no-no. If you're putting more than 5 to 10 words on a post, you're going to lose their interaction on what you're trying to portray. So I would look at what you're trying to post first, write it out, and simplify it. Are there 2 things you can make bullet points? Can you use one catchphrase at the top? Can you make it smaller? So keeping all those things in mind, you really don't need a lot of information to inform March Break Camp is on the 12th to the 16th. Like there's your date. Have your protocol on how to get in touch. So have your website. All those things can make it really simple. So I just want to make sure that we take 2 steps back when creating your own. And remember, this is if you want to keep it within a budget. All these 3 apps can really make your life easy. You just have to make sure that they're done properly, or they will not do justice for your social media. My last little point for this is just understanding the extra format takes time, and be sure that the person in charge of your social media is really making it a priority and to make it work in their favor. It really is such a good social platform to have as you grow it, and this is kind of where the world is going. So, start now and making sure that that is something that is a priority in your program and a strong suit as you move forward with it. Tip number 5, photos that say 1,000 words. Cheerleading is a performance sport, which means that can be tricky to advertise without good photos. When using photos, please keep the following in mind when choosing the right shot. Number 1, is the photo a high-res pic? Now, this can be swayed a couple different ways. If you screenshot a photo on your phone and text it to someone else, it is not high resolution, which many people do, and you can get away with using that from time to time. But if you're sending an advertisement to a magazine, and you're sending an advertisement to, any type of print, that will not work. So please make sure, if you don't know what a high res photo is, that's fine, but educate a little bit. Have a camera on site. Most new phones have good enough cameras that can take these high res photos, but it just doesn't look good on a company or a brand that we have pictures that are pixelated and they're fuzzy or whatnot, or the color is bad. So make sure that that's a priority, that the pictures look like they've been taken with a proper device. Number 2, does she or he or the group look like they're having fun? There's 2 components to what we advertise as a sport, especially in cheerleading. Number 1, we're advertising to children and kids in an activity that's going to be fun for them, where they gain confidence and they're enjoying a sport that is super diverse. So we don't want to make that look complicated. It just needs to look like a smile. So do they look like they're enjoying what they're doing? That needs to be the main component on any type of picture. Number 3, would this intimidate a new interested kid? So back to what I was saying prior, the first part of it, does it look like fun? The second part of it, does it look athletic? As cheerleading goes, we are still making that climb of our sport becoming legitimate. And we've, as an industry, have done a really amazing job in the last few years of making big strides on our sport. But when we see a photo that doesn't look athletic, i.e., tons of glitter, and all we see is nothing that really could portray the sport the way we really want it to, that's not going to be the biggest interest to a kid. Now it could, some of that stuff does look fun. We just have to find a fine ground on the athleticism so that it does look like a sport and we are taking it fairly seriously, but understanding that this is a fun sport to be about. Number 4, does this photo look appropriate, athletic to people not in the sport? So one of the things that I really like to pay attention to is body positions in any flyers that we have. We have these beautiful positions that we have in the air, but to a mom, that might not be something that looks to be the most athletic. So show your bases a little bit more. Show the girls that are lifting. Show the ones that are, working really hard. Do you have a really good handstand photo? Do you have a good, strong stunting photo where you're showing more aspects of the sport instead of just our flyers? I think it's important to show it's an all-around sport. That's probably the biggest thing we love pushing in cheerleading, is that there is literally a spot for every type of person, tall, small, strong, whatever you name it. But we need to portray that. Always showing a flyer doesn't make that, that average person think she can fit in on that team. So showing those other kids that are doing other components could be a really good push forward on how we have more kids interested in cheerleading. My last point is stay away from photos that reveal more than it should. So again, talking about air positions, but it could also be just a jump photo, making sure that we're keeping it appropriate. We don't need to show when their skirts get a little hiked by accident. Again, athleticism versus showing a kid, by accident of just little things. My other side of appropriateness is when you're putting a picture in an ad, really stay away from pictures of kids with knee braces and ankle braces. I know that injuries happen, and we've almost become immune to it to a point. We understand that those kids need those things to stay stronger, but again, when you're advertising to a new parent and they see something like that, that's alarming to them. They don't understand why that kid has that, and it may not even be from cheerleading, but we have to keep it friendly. So again, showing pictures without any braces, concussion helmets, any of those things, let's keep it off the radar, because it's just not important to show that. So do your best weeding through pictures and having a good standard on what you decide to post. I think my last little tidbit on that too is making sure that we are not showing just a senior kid, but you're showing the 5-year-old that just joined cheerleading. She just learned how to tie her shoes. So enjoying a dynamic sport and becoming really smart and learning a routine, all those little things you got to show in that 5-year-old in that picture. A group of them having fun, a group of juniors. Remember how many ages we get to interact with as coaches, I think it's important that we're showing, you know, that 5-year-old can grow up to be that 15-year-old on that awesome worlds team. Like, those things are important. So I really think our photos can do a lot for a gym. It's just about, you know, how do you do it and how to go about it. One thing I would like to point out as well, keep in mind where you're getting pictures from. So number one of the easiest ways is, if the competition you attend provides free photos, get as many as you can. Save them. You don't have to use them all, but have them on file, so that if you need a good photo moving forward for an ad or a social media post, you can start building your, you know, your a bit of a gallery on all of these different pictures of different kids in your program. My second tip, there's always going to be a parent in your gym that will have a, you know, a high res intense camera, and will love taking photos. And usually, for the most part, they won't mind sharing them. They just like having good quality photos as much as the business should. So make sure that you ask them. Just say, like, can you take a few pictures today? And, you know, maybe you can credit that family for a, you know, a shirt in your pro shop, anything. Think of ways on how you can get more. And then my last one is, if it's in your budget at your gym once a year, I do always suggest a photo shoot. I think taking some really good pictures that are easy to use and you can use more than once is valuable, because then you have them on hand. It's much like any other business. If you talked about the car industry, they're going to have, you know, standard photos of every car that they have for a million different things that they have to use, just because they need them. So we need to make sure we kind of have the same thing. We need to have pictures of athletes that are on hand and easy to access. So if it's in your budget and you can hire a photographer, I would look into going about that way. If it's not in your budget, again, see if there's a student in your gym that is studying photography that would like to try it, and go about it that way. And then you're opening up another opportunity for somebody to try something new. So I do think we need to make sure that photos are a really big importance in our sport as we continue to push what it is, because we know that cheerleading is so dynamic and has a lot of elements to it. And our photos can really help with that when we're kind of, you know, we're promoting our sport. All right. Analytics are your friend. Numbers are not my favorite thing, but I will say, when it comes to analytics on your website and social media advertisements, this is really important. What are they? They're important numbers, graphs, stats, and more when you're visiting, when you're looking at your social media and website. So you get to see who's visiting your website, engaging on your posts, clicking on your posts, all of that good stuff. You can find out specifics like the busiest day on your website, or the most clicked page, or the most clicked post, highest engaged social post, anything. These numbers could change how you market online. For example, if you change your Instagram account to a business profile, if you haven't done that, please do it. They provide free analytics on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. It will show you which days had the least amount of engagements and which days had the most, and so much more. I find these helpful because you get to see your whole year in one batch. You get to see the countries that are visiting you the most, the cities that are closest to you that could be engaging with your posts the most, all that stuff. It can be super helpful when creating a strong social media plan. And you get to understand your audience a little bit more. You can also see where people are visiting from, which can potentially help advertising in the future for tryouts and camps and other programs that you offer. So if you haven't looked at any analytics yet, take a peek at your website. That'll be the one that has the most, as you've probably had your website the longest out of any social media. But just take a peek, see what it will surprise you to see where people are coming from and what people are actually engaging on the most on your website. And then from there, learn how to use analytics through Facebook, especially when you're using or promoting Facebook ads. They too will supply analytics at the end. But I really think it's a smart tactic just to inform yourself and be in the know of, are your ads doing what you want them to do? Are they going to be supported the right way? Was it successful? Maybe it wasn't, and you still learn on why it wasn't a good ad. So do yourself a favor. If it's only once a month or once a week, you choose when to look at analytics. Okay, number 7, hire within. Marketing should be a really important component in your business, but it can take up a fair amount of time. So if you feel your program marketing is a lot on your plate, look into hiring within your own staff. You will find your marketing will be more successful when the person behind creating and doing is already part of your program, and more importantly, knows the sport of cheerleading. If you have a coach who is currently in school for marketing, take advantage of the opportunity and give she or he a new role to build their resume. If it's not in your budget to pay an employee right away, start your marketing program off as an internship. This could be an awesome way to open another door and an opportunity for somebody in your gym, and it could potentially have longevity. Maybe that student ends up taking in that role and can keep that on their radar as like a side project and something that they can do consistently and help grow in your program. The other thing I'd like to point out too, if you end up taking the marketing on your own, or you do have someone on hand, really look into a couple different tactics that can be educational. So for example, pretty much everywhere will have, if you looked into certain schools, there's local colleges nearby, they will offer local marketing classes that you can attend. There's also online tutorials about social media, different conferences to attend to, and that can be pretty much any time of the year. These things happen throughout every month. But it is helpful just to have that extra piece of education. It could be a 2-hour class where you learned way more than you had assumed so. I think the other side of it is if you hire an intern that's an athlete in your gym who's just savvy on social media, may not mean that person knows, the build of social media or the business behind social media. So it is important to look into what's available. There are certain classes that are actually offered for free. So do your homework. If it's something that you can fit in your budget, maybe look to something that's a little bit more expensive, whereas it could be a conference or something that's maybe more geared in Toronto. Look into OCAD, the different art schools in the city. They all have really, really good classes and tutorials that could be something in your interest. But either way, really do yourself a favor and see who can be of help when looking into your marketing for your gym. Now, if hiring in is just not something that's going to work for your gym, totally fine. Look on hiring out. You will always want to educate yourself on what you can do as you keep going. For example, I work side by side with Allie and Lan quite often. And my ideas for social media are different from what we discuss, and we have different plans and have meetings about all of those things, because at the end of the day, this is a business and takes more than one person. That being said, if you're not able to hire in somebody that already works within your program, there are lots of options outside of that. Number one, look for local agencies. Usually within your radius, there should be a business that offers either custom design work or, kind of like a one-on-one that can help you at a monthly basis or a yearly basis, that can offer those strategies and those services, obviously for a fee. But it might be worth your while for somebody to do that. And even if it was for the first year, you learn from that point on, and maybe in a year from that time, you have someone that can kind of follow suit within your program and take over after that. I do think it's worth your while just to see what other companies can offer. Everyone works a little bit differently, so how one designer sees something may not be the same as an agency. So I think it's important to do your homework on what can be offered. Number two, for freelance marketers, which is how I essentially started, there are lots of graphic designers and marketers that do work simply on the side and do it from home, but have a little bit more time to give it their own perspective and, keeping it kind of like their own project and working side by side with you. The really good benefit of a freelance marketer or designer is that their schedules are probably really flexible if this is a full-time gig, and are more likely to be able to meet you in person, could probably come to your facility. You can make arrangements on however you want for them to help manage what you'd like completed. Remember too, regardless if you hire a local agency or a freelance marketer, they're going to help with every aspect of advertising, which doesn't need to be all social media based. If you would like to advertise in newspapers and magazines and go about things that way, they will have the tactics to help you with that. So you just have to also listen to their advice on maybe where they think it's best advertised for what you're doing. And then number 3, of course, look into your own gym. It doesn't have to necessarily be a coach, but talk to the parents. There's going to be at least one person in your gym, of a student that's studying marketing, a parent that is a marketer, a parent that could be a freelance marketer, and you may be able to work something out that works in your favor, a little plan, something with them, but something that they're already involved in, and they're already involved in your gym. So see if you can make two worlds kind of collide like that. I will say that, do your homework on the different businesses in the cheer industry as well. There, as I mentioned before, all those businesses can be just at random, and different businesses that work with every type of work. So it may not just be cheerleading, it may be, hockey, it may be real estate. If you want something more specific within cheerleading, then look out to where, look into the different groups of coaches. We all know in the cheerleading industry, we have the ASGA group, which is a wonderful resource where we can just type in, I'm looking for A, B, and C, and there's numerous coaches that, know someone that knows someone. So utilize those groups as well if you want to stay within the cheerleading industry, and you're bound to find somebody that's, experienced and excited and willing to work with you within the sport. Same thing for this. You can also look into, more online tutorials. Keep that in mind. I feel like that's just a good tactic no matter who you are. If you end up hiring out, no problem. I think one of the things, if you go to a tutorial and learn 3 new things about social media, and that agency you hired isn't doing those 3 things, well, now you've learned that, and now you can apply that and say you want A, B, and C that you learned at this different conference, and how do we integrate it together? So there's no wrong way of learning more. Our world with marketing and social media changes every single day. So keep on top of it as much as you can. Number 9, coaches are your best resource. Every coach at this point has a smartphone with a decent camera in it. Train your coaches to take fun pictures and videos of the athletes that they're coaching. I'm not saying your coaches should be on their phone during practice time, but it certainly only takes a quick 20 seconds to snap a picture of 2 kids having fun, a video of a tumbling lesson, open gym, anything. Your athletes who follow your social media love seeing themselves online. Another great way for your kids to connect with your program, and an easy way to get more content for online. If you ask every coach of a team that they help coach, ask them to take 2 pictures a week. You will end up having enough fun content for an entire month for free. Coaches know their athletes the best, and adding another fun component into practice is great. I find when I'm coaching my kids and I say, let's do a boomerang of whatever they're doing, or they have a theme practice, the kids go bananas. They just love being a part of that. And it's another way of the coach, interacting with the kids, but making it fun, and knowing like you're pretty much asking them, be involved with our social media. I say it all the time to a lot of my kids, like, maybe this should go on Instagram, and like they just light up. And so including that is something I think is important as the morale in your gym, as well as what you're putting online. And it's important to realize that it's a full circle. What you do online comes from what you're doing in the gym. So if you're having fun in the gym, we should be able to portray that real easily within a picture or a video. Like I said before, pictures of tumbling or videos of tumbling, new skills is always a great one. Kids having fun, coaches with their athletes, coaches having fun, boomerangs, different interactive apps that all the kids love. If there's certain trends going around, I think it was last year was the mannequin challenge, do those things with your kids, because they're the ones that hear about it before you do. Especially if you're an older coach, you know that they're going to hear about it at school before we hear about it. So if they say, this is the newest thing, do it with them. Make it fun. And then they'll want to go watch it online, and then they'll share it, and then they'll show their parents. And again, it's the vibe that you're creating in the gym is something you want to market. That's how we want kids to come to our program and enjoy the sport of what we're doing and, portraying. My last one, the most important, keep it fun. Everyone in cheerleading wants to promote a fun, active sport that is great for kids of all ages, and parents are looking for a program that keeps their kid happy in a positive environment. So remember, when advertising your program, it's just about your gym. It's about representation of our sport. It's about a lot of things. Cheerleading is still a young sport, and the smarter we market, the more seriously it will be taken. It's up to us when marketing what we do. So please keep that in mind. Keeping it fun, keeping it professional, keep it athletic, don't oversell, keep it truthful and classy. I want to make sure that as we move forward into the second half of our season here in Canada for cheerleading and in the States, as we move forward within the things coming up and our tryouts coming up, be the reason our sport takes another stride forward. Be the reason that they take us seriously. Remember that as much as I work for Sharks and love my job, we as an industry are doing something as a whole. And we have to remember that we're still fighting the good fight of making cheerleading what it is and what we know it is. And we're all passionate about that. And so creating marketing and social media that shows that consistently, I truly believe is a big help in what we're trying to do. And I think, we've seen it in other sports that have been around for 100 years. We want to make sure that ours is on top of theirs and continue to do that. And I think, that's something that has pushed me to do what I do as a job, and as a coach, of course, but combining the two and just making our outlook of what cheerleading is more than just a hair bow, more than just a glitzy uniform. We are the best sport, in my opinion, and I will always say that. So, let's make sure as a unit, as an industry, we're continuing to market in a smart manner. So my recap, just remember that as a sport and marketing, it doesn't have to be just you. If you're a one gym owner, you're a dual gym owners, it doesn't have to be on your plate. Please make sure that marketing doesn't get swept aside as the last priority in your gym. If anything, it needs to be first. And working as a group, work with your coaches, work with your parents, understanding how you can do more together and marketing in a bigger aspect. Don't hold back, and just make sure, if you want to reach out and ask other gyms as well, there's education along those sides. So I really hope that you got some good information out of this. And there's certainly lots of other areas of advertising that we could have discussed today as well, but I really think this is kind of our main importance within our sport. And thank you so much for listening.
Thanks so much, Maria. I hope everyone enjoyed that as much as I did. If there's anything from this webinar that you'd like to learn more about, please let us know in the chat box. As I mentioned before, Full Out is one of our new partners, and Maria will be doing more webinars on behalf of Full Out, so we'll make sure to cover those topics in future webinars. A couple reminders, this webinar was recorded, so you'll get a link to be able to watch it again early next week. Questions, we'll answer them in a few seconds, but you can enter them in the chat box. And lastly, if you are interested in Amelia, along with that recording, you'll get a link to sign up for a free trial where you can test out all your features. So we'll answer some questions. I have, how often do you post per week on each of your channels?
So it varies. As I had kind of mentioned prior, it depends on your interactive size or your following. For Sharks, because our following is very big, nearly 50,000 people, I try to post between 3 to 5 times a day, which can seem like a lot for the average gym, which is why I said, if you have less than that, which is totally fine, you don't need to be putting out that as much content, but we have 4 programs, so I feel I really like to try and reach all 4 programs with different material.
We've tried some Facebook ads and have gotten a lot of traction there in terms of likes and followers, but we aren't getting a lot of new athletes. How can we improve that?
So it's interesting because I really truly think it depends on what the ad is saying. So, and Facebook has a rule about that, right? That you can only have so much text, and I think it's text that really is the big kind of pusher. But I would look back onto what I talked about when it comes to photos. So if you have a fun photo of kids, and it's really, that's the age group we want to target is kids, you need to be really wise on what pictures we put into those ads and see if that makes a turnaround for tryouts. I do think the other the other aspect is making sure that your audience, if you're getting traction with them, you should be able to look into your analytics on where they're coming from and maybe change your next ad and only put it to that area of where the most people are kind of interacting with your ad. The other thing too is if you put out an ad on Facebook or Instagram, which can be implemented as the same thing, use something that could be more interactive and saying, try the best sport in the world. Try the sport that's going to make your daughter happy. Any of those things, maybe that's a little bit more interactive for a parent to go, oh, we should do that. So I do think that a photo would be kind of a good push forward for that, and trying something different and seeing what your wording is on your ad.
We have, how often should you be changing your website, Facebook cover photos, and profile pictures on social media?
I try to do it in my mind a little bit seasonally. So if we kind of broke down the 12 months, I would put more of a generic banner for the first couple months of the year, being January. I do think for events, so take Valentine's Day, Easter, Christmas, any of those things, I do like to put up a banner to celebrate those things. I think it keeps it fun a little bit and maybe a little bit real. Like, we like to celebrate all of those things as well. So it doesn't always have to be an advertisement, right? I do like the Facebook ads. They're a great way to have your, call to action, your website. It's a great platform to have that, but you can also keep it fun. If you have something up there like a contest or whatnot, you're welcome to change those. I do think that a lifespan of a Facebook banner it needs to be at minimum of 2 weeks. And then further to that can be a little bit longer, but it should change at least, I would say, 5 to 8 times in 1 year at the minimum.
This one's for me. Does Amelia have any marketing tools? We do actually. So Maria mentioned how important analytics are, and we 100% agree. We've made it easy with an integration with Google Analytics and Facebook so that you can track from the people coming from those ads, how many of them are buying and how much are they buying for. And that'll help you go back and say, the money that I invested in this ad was worth it because this family bought for X amount. So we make that super easy. We know we're not all experts in marketing, but we've made it super easy to implement that so you can track all your paid advertising. I got, how do you get your athletes and families to share your content?
We ask them. we ask them. I think there's 2 tactics to this. Number one, I like posting sometimes and saying, please share this. Sometimes families just do it. I think part of the last year, and since social media has become something that, we want our parents to be involved. And I think that does take a little bit of time to really make sure that one ad or that article or that blog that you post speaks to them as well. But I also find that our coaches have gotten a lot more involved in sharing things as well. And I would say that on a weekly or maybe even more of a daily basis, that a lot of our coaches are sharing 1 to 2 things that are posted in our social media. And I think that really helps because, everybody lives a really busy life. And the more times we can put something out there to show them or remind them that it's online, they're going to look at it. And I think that's kind of an important trick to just remember. You can share it in your team Facebook groups. You can share it on your own Facebook page. If parents have questions, there are other parents that aren't going to be on social media that much, which is fine. But you can be kind of the voice of reminder. So if someone had said, why is so-and-so's tumbling not really getting where it should be? And I can send the post and say, oh my gosh, we have this tumbling clinic next week. Here's the post, and they can go about it that way. So in some ways you can share it in different manners, but I do find that coaches sharing it has also influenced our parents to do the same thing.
How did you get so many followers on social media? What are the tricks?
Well, Sharks is pretty specific, as we obviously had a TV show that is now on Netflix called Cheer Squad, if you haven't seen it. So that's been a big draw to our social media, no doubt. But there's been kind of a good grow before the show had arrived as well. When I first started doing social media for Sharks, we were, I think, between 87 to 8,800 followers. So I do think that when we started to, process content that was consistent and up all the time, people were interacting with our social media a lot. And what happens on Instagram, if a post is quite popular and, the average coach that's from cheerleading goes on the second page of Instagram, pictures and content come up on things they may be interested in. And I have seen it more than once where Sharks social media ends up being on those different contents. And I think just, I really think all of that has implemented all together. It's just been helpful. And of course, the following of Great Whites has been a big push as well, which has been awesome.
You spoke about consistency. Is there a quick way to post on different platforms at the same time?
Yep. So if you post on Instagram first, which is what I prefer to do, Instagram allows you to link your accounts on it automatically. So you can link Facebook, you can link Twitter. I believe there's a couple other ones in there. Tumblr might be one of them. You can link all of those accounts, and simply by saying share, you can just, choose which ones you want to share on, and it will share right away. And that's such a big time saver. There used to be apps that can help you do that, but if you choose to do things through Instagram first, then you can tackle all those things and it's a one and done.
Do you think having a template for coaches to post things on social media is good?
Yes. I think if you want everyone to help and kind of have their assistance in it, you can either create one on your own through Canva if you want to save some money, or you can ask a designer to make one. It is helpful to see gyms. I've certainly created custom content before where I will include the logo and a website for them, but include blank spaces, and they can use them for whatever they want, and they can reuse them, which is also budget friendly because it never goes old. You can change it up. You can make it about tumbling lessons. You can make it about, a stunt clinic, whatever, but you can reuse them, which I do think is smart. And yes, having that option for other coaches to use over and over is always a good idea.
And I think we have time for one more question. How do you keep your ideas fresh? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Oh, it's so funny to ask. I think all my years of coaching has really been the most fun part for me. That's where I get my inspiration. I coach quite a bit. So it's nice for me personally. I get to coach a good age range. So I get to see the kids here and there and doing different things. And I think in some ways, sometimes I just like taking pictures because I like taking photos. But then, in a week's time, I need a good photo for an ad, and I'm able to do that. I also think as this is what I do as a business, I do find that I am constantly trying to create different ideas, and unfortunately for me, it comes within my nature. It is what I want to do, and I really am trying to be a good leader in our industry on how social media should look. So I'm always referencing different things. I really like looking at the professional sports. If it's NHL, the NBA, I really like looking at their content because it is the most consistent. But I also like looking at just different businesses. I find businesses like Spotify and Shopify, all these different up-to-date, really savvy companies, they're also really good to reference. So I just like trying to find my ideas from pretty much everything and anything, and I pull from that, and I just like coming up with something that's new all the time.
Awesome. Well, if anyone else has any questions, you can reply to the email with your recording, and then I'll make sure either Maria or I answers them as fast as we can. So thanks for coming, everybody, and spending an hour with us. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you.